Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas and this is Wonder of Existence. Today we're going to talk about or discuss the topic related to social activities and social behaviors. And I would like to, today I've got only Mike with me, which means not in terms of like only that, that's something negative, but he is absent today, so...
He's playing football.
He's playing football, so we'll be talking just one-on-one, which might also be quite interesting. Let's see how it goes. Okay, aspects of human behavior. That's the topic which we sort of preliminary discussed just a moment ago. And I think that we're now ready to go for it. So the emotions, human behavior, aspects of the way of how we behave and why we behave this and that way. We got this sort of discussion for 5 or 10 minutes, and now we discuss it to roll it with the cameras on. So, Mike, if you can just sort of carry on. I mean,
carry on with the story I was just telling. But for af, that's a Dutch term. Before that, we were discussing. You were asking me if I'm ever angry, because you've never seen me angry, but you haven't actually known me that long. And I said, yeah, now and again, I'm angry when somebody keeps pushing my trigger, and I've got triggers just like everybody else. And when you're poking me in the face or in the chest to make a point, I will turn after a little while, and if you push me emotionally and continually do that, I will also blow up after a little while. And an argument I had with a person I was involved with who really knew my triggers, she would say, well, why do you wait so long before you blow up? You always blow up like a really bad explosion. You're very, very calm, and then suddenly you explode. I said, yeah.
Because you accumulate.
Because I accumulate. She says you accumulate it. Yeah. Why don't you let the air out sooner?
As they come.
Yeah. I said, well, I can't because it's not building up in me. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. You can do it 5 times, I'm not angry. 6 times, I'm not angry. 7, it's starting to bubble a little bit. And but I'm not ready to explode, I can tell you. But if you keep pushing it to the 8th and the 9th time, then I've lost control and I explode. And that can be quite powerful. And it's because I'm mostly calm. And I don't have that regular build-up of anger until it goes over a certain line. And I can't explode until I get over that line. And that over that line is from being calm to having too much, And that's why I explode at that moment. And that's just my personality. And I can't change that. I can't pretend to get angry when I'm not. And it's the same with other emotions as well. And the story I was telling you then is about fear. And I tend to deal with my own emotions by not making them so serious. So if I'm angry or fearful or frustrated or anything, I can step back from that and look at it and say, yeah, come on, grow up, do something about it. You're not letting your emotions get hold of you, it's better than that. And so I tend to joke about my own emotions. And if I do explode, or I do get frustrated, or I do get fearful or something, I don't punish myself for being like that, for not being perfect. I'm always looking for an easier way out. A less serious way out. So I don't beat myself up for not being perfect. That's what I was saying in our pre-talk. And an example of that was when I was talking to my ex-wife, like I say that, and my son came in and he was wearing a T-shirt, and it had a slogan on it, and because it was folded up a little bit, I couldn't read the slogan fully, and I just saw the words fear was one of the words, and an F. So there was an F as a word, the first word, and that's all I could see. I couldn't see the rest of the word from where he was standing, and I could see fear. And I said, "Oh, that's a nice T-shirt. Free your fears."
And that was?
It was face your fears.
Ah, okay.
And my ex said, "Well, that is absolutely typical of you, isn't it? Make it easy for yourself. Don't face them. Don't deal with them. Just let them go." And that was the difference between us, because she would work hard, and I'm fearful, so I've got to face them. I've got to do this. I've got to learn not to be fearful and everything. And I said, my philosophy is, don't go there. You know, don't get paid any attention. If you're fearful about something, you know, go somewhere else. Free it, or find a way to deal with it that's not conflicting. You know, don't make a big deal of it. Try to understand what that fear is, and then it'll dissipate. It'll go, and you won't be fearful of it anymore. But instead of confronting it, you know, it's and it's two ways of looking at the same thing. So face my fears is not my philosophy. Freeing them is. And when I see that T-shirt, and I saw the F and I saw the fears, my own idea of what to do with fears put that slogan in front of me, and it was just a sort of an example of I suppose how you create your own reality by the things you think about. That I didn't see face because it didn't come into my mind of having to face fears, because that's not the way I work. And I think this is something that when you talk about emotions, and emotions can take a lot of can rule your life. They can take up a lot of your time. You can even if you manage to control them, they still cause you a lot of heartache. Can negative emotions, then, you know, positive emotions are really quite easy to deal with.
Well, that depends on the character, right?
It depends on the character, yeah, but you can change your character a little bit. You can learn to see things from a different perspective, and you can learn to deal with them in a different way. And the point is, okay, control of your emotions is, again, a sort of a confrontation with your emotions. I'm going to control them, they're getting control of me, so I've got to work hard and control my emotions. You're fighting with yourself. Mm-hmm. Why are you fighting with yourself? My philosophy is, don't fight with yourself. Understand them, accept them, just let them play out, and then and you know, pat them on the back and say, that was good, you've had your time, you know. Now let's get back to good matters, and don't take them so seriously, they're part of you. And well, we tend to get wrapped up in our emotions as if we've got no control. And control is not a confrontational thing. It's just taking a higher place than your own emotions. But if you don't try to understand them, if you don't spend some time trying to understand where they come from and what your triggers are, you're never going to be able to do that. You're always going to be at the mercy of your emotions, and at the same time, at the mercy of anybody who knows those emotions and knows the triggers to those emotions and can push them out of their own needs.
Yeah.
Do you get that?
Yeah. No, but I'm just trying to look at this a bit deeper. How do you think, or where do you think it comes from? I mean, the way you behave. But because, you know, the topic is the aspect of behavior, but your behavior is something that you believe is part of a character, or is it something that been sort of it built up based on your environment, which shaped you the way that you are now? or perhaps the behavior is just the core of you, which, once you are born on this world, you are just like that, and that's it. So basically, my question is, I'm not asking for the percentage, but how do you think, like, what's the, if we can divide us as a human beings in terms of character, do you think that the environment has the biggest influence on your character, or perhaps your DNA, the way you are physically? You are just born to be, let's say, stubborn, and that's how it is, and your environment won't shape you? Or maybe, I don't know, some external factors also play a role here. How do you see that?
Yeah, interesting. Chemicals. If you're going to look at it on a physical level, there are cases of an imbalance in chemicals or a misfunction of a certain gland that might create particular chemicals instead of other chemicals which upset the balance. So you're predisposed to one particular reaction and emotion. You might have too much of one chemical which makes you very, very, very what's the word I'm looking for? Melancholic of sorts. Sad, or predisposed to depression, or predisposed to anger, or predisposed to lack of empathy, or predisposed to a sense of cruelty, pleasure, in those sort of things, or predisposed to a lack of interest, predisposed to a sense of wonder. On a physical level, these are particular chemicals that have an effect on one's emotion and enable us to place ourselves within.
So basically, you're saying that this physical program is actually what we are in terms of our behavior.
You can look at it that way. Yeah,
because I was just certainly trying to find something else from you as well.
Yeah, there is that way of look, and those examples are real, but they're not the only examples. And you said environment. Environment can train you to think in certain ways.
Train you.
Yeah.
So you still
influence
believe that you. So you're saying that you actually come to this life with some particular group of way of how you're going to behave. So the elements of your behavior. So they are sort of like so let's say prerequisite for your behavior are some group of elements which are given to you once you are born, and then the external factors might sort of shape you slightly different.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. You come with a certain, say, program, if you want to use that. You come with a certain program that is, and that can be discussed in terms of a chemical makeup, but also a psychological makeup that is present within you from birth, and then your environment, how you deal with your environment, can turn you one way or it can turn you another way. And environment, nurture, it does have an incredible effect on people. Creating traumas when you're young is going to give you problems for the rest of your life if you don't deal with them in the right way. And to deal with them in the right way, you have to do a little bit of soul searching, self-searching, self-understanding, and acceptance of yourself, and then putting other things in perspective and taking responsibility at a certain time to say, well, okay, that happened to me, but it's not happening to me now. How am I going to incorporate this into my life story and not let it define me? There's a lot of self responsibility that needs to be taken, certainly as an adult, to look back on old traumas and not let them continue to define you. And you might still have an imbalance, but you can learn to adapt so that those imbalances are not triggered. So that's a sort of way of controlling emotions. But let's get back to how your environment and your that is the environment, the greater environment, or even a family environment, a relationship with parents, with siblings, and things. They can all have an effect, but that's more on a psychological level. As in a psychological level, will close you off from alternative ways of being and focus on victimization, maybe, where you are then more predisposed to let negative emotions determine how you react. The spiritual program that you come into this earth with, I think, also has a big effect on how you deal with things. If I think back to me, or I think back to me and my siblings, we were all brought up in exactly the same environment, and me and my youngest brother have gone in one direction, and the other two have gone in another direction. Not negative, but with a different understanding, carrying a lot more traumas with them. Not serious traumas. They function well. They're not horrible people. They're very, very loving people and things. But they don't have a wider interest in their own emotions. They still react emotionally. They still carry certain elements of say blame, shame, frustration. Regret.
But then what triggered in you this?
Well, that's the whole point. That's what we discussed with Geert in other ones. Eh?
Yeah.
Where does that come from? The question about why is this sort of setup interesting? And I can only presume that I set that up in myself when I decided to come into this world. But if you don't believe that, then obviously that argument is null and void. But I do believe we had a particular purpose before we were born to come into this life, and we set ourselves up with a certain chemical makeup, a certain psychological makeup, and a certain environmental basis that would steer us through little events, triggers, to actually pursue a path that we were meant to pursue. And my two siblings who are on a different path than me and my brother might have had a different purpose for being here. And I've got to accept that, but me and my brother tend to have the same, my youngest brother, and we have the same sort of psychological makeup, which, even though we've had different experiences, because we were six years apart, different family experiences, we still ended up on the same path. Yeah. And we discussed this a lot. Why did you end up on this path? What were the events that led you onto this path? And what were the events that led me onto this path? And it's so different. Yet we ended up on the same path. And we, you know, the emotions that we had to deal with when we were younger, the events that we had to deal with, could not have been dealt with if we didn't have a particular psychological makeup. They would have taken us somewhere else. But so our psychological makeup, and where that comes from, yeah, who knows where that comes from? But even with him and with me, we both got this curiosity that we've been talking about with Geert, a curiosity to seek out answers to bigger questions. To want to know ourselves, our own makeup. You know, it's not just enough to say, "Oh, I'm an angry bugger," or I'm calm, always calm, and I never get angry, or I have this depression, I'm carrying this trauma, or no, I don't think about those things; they don't interest me. You know, these are character traits that you can define who you are, but I have that one in me that says, I want to know myself, you know. I have these things. I'm not prepared to just let them define me. I want to know why they define me. And then I go deeper into myself, whereby I understand then, okay, the emotions that I do have that tend to be chemically produced or nurture produced, environmentally produced, I can step out of them and observe them, whereby I then have more understanding of them and more control of them. And I find out that the older I get, the more control I have with less effort. So, yeah, I don't actually get that angry anymore because I tend to laugh at my own angers, you know, and my own frustrations.
But that's very interesting, because what you're saying is...
But I also don't tie myself into a relationship where somebody's going to start poking me and trigger my... I mean, I don't think I'm free of those sort of triggers. It's just that I choose my environment a little bit more carefully as well now.
But you know, I see that you, let's call it like this, I'm still trying to characterize what's character, you know? So why people are like that or like this or something else. And I'm seeing this, what we just discussed, is like a big cocktail of a mixture of the genotype, so the physicality, the environmental factors, and the third one, which would be the spiritual factor. But spiritual factor might be related to the physical part, because the physical part, according to you, might be pre-prepared for you to be in particular way, to be done in a particular way, or ready in a particular way.
Yeah.
So then, you know, when you come into this life, you know, it's either goes easy because you shaped it this way, or it goes not easy because you wanted to have this life not going easy. So you're full of temper, for example, and then you have to fight with yourself, and etc., etc. But it might also be the case, like you said, like that some people like you, or I would say minority, unfortunately, of people are conscious enough to sort of stop, park, or even take a step back and try to understand why they behave this or that way. And they try to understand that, just go through those emotions and try to filter out what actually triggered me to behave this way. And if you, let's say, treat this as something negative, perhaps you should be changing it. And if you want to change it, you can do so, but you have to sort of fight with yourself, because your physical you will always be triggering some activities, like because of the testosterone, for example, in your blood, whilst at the same time you consciously trying to be not who you physically are. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. It's like an internal fight, and I've got a feeling that some people do have it, and some people don't have it because they simply don't think about anything emotion related. They just treat this as part of their life. They just live their life like average men, just go through their life and doesn't think for more than a couple of minutes a year that, you know, he behaved this or that way. They just, you know, that's why I sometimes say that people are like a robot. Some people are like robots, like machines. They just carry on like animals, like performing some tasks, some activities, and that's it. But
I don't think everybody's like robots.
I'm saying like
everybody has experiences that they have a struggle with dealing with, and different levels. But I can't say how deep they feel them. Some people shut them up, some people let them out, some people let them control them, some people climb up and will not allow themselves to be like that, creating stresses in themselves that are not healthy at all. But everybody goes through. Everybody experiences some form of sadness or depression, and everybody can be happy. Everybody knows situations that have made them really, really, happy and content, and other ones that have made them really sad and despondent. And I think everybody goes in it to some level or other. The problems come when you especially let negative emotions define you and ruin your life, but also ruin your life.
Yeah.
And when everything's going good, everything's hunky-dory and everybody's got control, everybody's, ticking along, very few people do anything about it because they're content, that's it. But it's only when the negative emotions kick in.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about.
That we start discussing how serious emotions are in your life.
That's what I'm talking about by saying people are like robots. What I wanted to say is like people don't pay attention to their emotions, and I'm not talking about the average man. I'm talking about some group of people. Let's say let's call this simple people, people who just concentrated on their daily tasks. They just even if they get angry, they just get angry. If they very happy, they're very happy, but they never or very rarely they actually analyze themselves in order to perhaps I should be controlling myself from the emotional point of view, which reminds me that's why I use this word robot or the animal. I mean animal is actually better from that point of view, but yeah, that's this difference. But you saying that because it's we are just mixture of this feelings, let's call it like that, and people are different. All people are different, and they carry all kind of different bag of problems from their childhood or perhaps from different lives. Even this also is a sort of factor on their current life and the current behavior. And as well as we said, the daily activities they create also a lot of factors which not allow people to be, for example, happy. When you have to fight for your basic like functions, like in order to survive. Let's say if you live in I don't know, somewhere in Africa, and you just think about how to survive today, how to get the water and how to get something to eat. You're not going to think about your emotions. You're just going to fight for your life, and that's it.
Yeah.
Once you reach some certain level, you start feeling like comfortable. Oh, I'm done now. I feel comfortable. Yeah. Maybe let me just look at the stars and let me just think about how I finished my day today and how I went through the day today. And then perhaps you start thinking about emotions. Otherwise, it's not a popular topic to talk about, right? Even if you think like you are angry, if nobody tells you, oh, why are you so angry? Would you just actually feel like, yeah, actually I am angry? No, it won't be triggered automatically by yourself, right? Unless you confront that with the others, and then you see, oh, I'm slightly different than those, and this group is actually behaving this way, and I'm somewhere in the middle. How do you see that? Do you agree, or do you?
There's the process of self-awareness. Whether you've trained yourself to be self-aware. The self-awareness is recognizing when something is not sitting right with you, and I know a lot of people who normally feeling a bit down. Yeah, why? I don't know. Just don't talk to me today. Whereas that's a lack of self-awareness. It's aware enough to know that they're feeling down, but not interested enough to find out why.
And to
and to fix it. Oh, do you enjoy feeling down? No. Why don't you do something about it? Well, I don't know what to do. And just don't talk to me. I'm really in a bad mood today. I'm in a bad mood. I got outside. I got out the wrong side of the bed. I'm in a bad mood. Don't talk to me. Well, why don't you change that mood? You're not interested in that mood, and there's a certain line that they will not cross. They will accept that they're in a bad mood, and it'll probably be over soon, hopefully. And there's some people who can't get across that line, and they fall deeper into it. And well, the more self-aware you are, the more, hopefully, the more curious you are in what is that feeling of I didn't step out the wrong side of the bed, you know, it's on the right side of the bed, but something something has happened that made me feel like this. I'm gonna research this. I'm gonna look into this. I'm gonna find out what that is, because I want to recognise it the next time it happens, so I can get out of it. Maybe find a way to not feel like that, because I don't like feeling like that. Although I remember going through a time of depression. We call it depression. It was a little bit of self-pity, actually, and I was enjoying the self-pity. You know, I didn't want to come out of it. I was actually enjoying it because I knew it would go, and I don't often feel self-pity. So for a little while, I was indulging myself with that feeling of self-pity, and thinking all the time, it was, well, I need to feel this because it will help me to write self-pity songs sometimes, you know. Really looking at it constructive, and it does. It helps me to write. It helps me to put myself in a particular place when I need to write, whether that's a song or whether that's a character in a book. I can put myself into self-pity. It was a learning experience, but I wouldn't want to indulge myself too long and fall into that trap of it controlling me. All emotions are important. And the more emotions you can experience, the richer your life, as long as you do not let one emotion overrule you. I lost train of thought what your question was now, but self-awareness. I find emotions are really, really exciting things to study because it's part of who you are. The interest comes from where do they stem from? You know, there is a combination of nurture, chemicals, environment, and a more spiritual program. Well, okay, a spiritual program that, if you think about spirituality and you believe in a forelife, then you can put that into a sort of spiritual program. But if you don't, then it's all chemical. You've got a sort of imbalance, and you are the victim of your chemicals. And chemicals, you know, they define your state of mind, which is your characteristics, which is your identity as well, your state of mind, you could put it in. But I believe then, you know, we have a purpose here, therefore we set ourselves up with these combination of events and factors of personality to enable us to explore a certain life story. I was talking last night with my brother about this as well, about how we are different from my sister and my other brother, to why we had the same general environment and
a very similar genotype.
Yeah,
coming from
exactly.
Your father and your mother.
Yet my brother and my sister, my middle brother and my sister, they have a completely different experience of a different evaluation, let's say, a different evaluation of our upbringing, where I wouldn't call them traumas, but certainly something that moves them in a certain direction with some little niggling feeling of I've been wronged, you know, and blame. Whereas my younger brother, we've discarded all blame, you know. Parents, they were who they were, and we have to deal with that now, and we take responsibility for how we are, not putting the blame onto them for who we are. And that is a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do, I think, is to take full absolute full responsibility. Never, ever, ever falling back into, yeah, but it was my environment. Yeah, but it was my chemicals. Yeah, it was my parents who did that. Yeah, it was because of these factors that made it impossible for me to do these certain things at this certain time. At some point, if you mature enough and self-aware enough, at some point you have to discard everything and say, no, I am totally responsible. From this moment on, I am totally responsible for every single thing in my life now. Because whatever befalls me, I can choose to take this perspective on it or that perspective. I have a choice now. And if you don't do that, you're not there yet. You've still got a lot of learning to do about yourself. And what was the other point I wanted to make?
Mike, that's a great discussion, but I'm afraid that we need to park it for now.
Already?
Yeah, time flies fast. I know. It's always been the case.
Yeah.
But thanks a lot for now. I'm pretty sure that we would come back to this discussion very quickly.
Okay.
So thank you very much, everybody. See you next time.